Of all the various Resident Evil titles out there, Resident Evil 4 is considered to be everyone's favorite. Since the release of Resident Evil 7, Capcom has been trying to return to the old days of classic Resident Evil horror by releasing the remakes of their well-known games such as Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake, along the previously remade masterpiece Resident Evil Remake. So far, Resident Evil 4 Remake has been rumored the most, and ever since Resident Evil Village was released, Capcom has been silent about Resident Evil, which makes me curious to know what they are up to. Between classic Resident Evils, Resident Evil 4 feels next-gen the most, and that's why we are probably not gonna be having any remakes for a long time, and this is probably gonna be the last remake. The original Resident Evil 4 was a masterpiece, and the remake has to go through a lot to approach the same way. In this video, I'll be going over the things that should be avoided in order to have the perfect remake of Resident Evil 4. Cutting content. Let's take a look at Resident Evil 1. The game was a masterpiece itself, developed by Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, a slow-paced game in which you play as STARS police officers and investigate the mansion, you fight zombies, and try to use the least ammo possible and manage your inventory. Almost a decade after that, they released a remake which contained everything that the first game had, and all the changes were new to the game, meaning that nothing was cut. New animations, guns, and enemies were added, plus high-res textures and the graphics and, well, the gameplay. That is what a remake means. Now let's take a look at Resident Evil 2. The game took the same approach like Resident Evil 1, but this time with new characters and locations, where we play as Leon Kennedy, a rookie cop on his first day, and Claire, a student looking for his missing brother, Chris. This remake though was almost a remake because many things were cut, such as the staircase and puzzles, and many more, but also new things were added as well, like the tyrant being available at both scenarios. But now let's take a look at Resident Evil 3. With no doubt, Resident Evil 3 was a masterpiece, and the game could compete with other games in the time, though the game was short. Well, the situation isn't the same for the remake though, cause it changed the game entirely, like it was rewritten. Some good changes were there, like the change of Nemesis and Carlos, but they barely remade the locations, and some boss encounters felt like Dark Souls rather than Resident Evil. This is exactly what the remake of Resident Evil 4 should avoid. Firstly, don't get me wrong, I love Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake, and I've played them a lot, but the fact that Resident Evil 3 Remake was not actually a remake bothers me. Well, we all love Resident Evil 4 and we know all the ups and downs of it, so if the remake takes the same approach as Resident Evil 3 Remake, well, that's another downgrade for Resident Evil. Extra game modes. Back in 2004, when Resident Evil 4 was released, we once more had the game mode Mercenaries that we had since Resident Evil 3, where you can play as several characters and kill enemies to earn points. This tradition has been with Resident Evil ever since. We had Mercenaries in Resident Evil 3, Code Veronica, Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, Village, and somehow in Revelations 1 and 2. Well, I've got no idea why they didn't put Mercenaries in Resident Evil 3 Remake, the game that firstly came up with the idea of Mercenaries. Anyway, to make Resident Evil 4 Remake last longer, there has to be Mercenaries implemented. In my opinion, Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries was the best because of, variety of playable characters and maps. Comparing that to Resident Evil 4 and 6, it's way more enjoyable. So now in Mercenaries, there've got to be new characters aside Leon, Ada, Wesker, Hunk, and Krauser. Maybe Luis Serra, maybe Jill. I know Jill is from the previous games, but Resident Evil 5 did the same thing, the reunion Mercenaries, which I think was a great idea. So maybe add old cast in their old clothes and outfits. Maybe Chris from Code Veronica or Resident Evil 1, Claire from Resident Evil 2 or Code Veronica. The possibilities are endless here for Mercenaries. Well, now about the Ada's DLC. Well, there has been some rumors and leaks lately saying we might see one expanded DLC of her instead of having two DLCs, The Assignment and Separate Ways. Well, I think that's a great idea. Well, the first DLC, Separate Ways, felt too much like a reused asset thing. And the second DLC meant nothing. You play as Ada just to search for some samples and that's it. The roles. Some leaks have recently suggested that the roles are gonna change, and some characters are gonna go through an overhaul change. Well, Ashley's character should change a bit maybe, and I think you all agree with me, cause no matter what, she is annoying. The rumors say that her outfit is gonna change, aside her character improves as the game goes on, and she will help Leon in the game. Well, that's great news. Well, Luis's character is okay. Carlos's face was okay, but they did a great thing changing his face. So maybe change him a little bit, why not? Well, the thing is, he dies early on in the game and he doesn't have enough screen time, though he's a seriously important character. Also, there is the cabin fight where he helps Leon, so I think of two things right now. Give him more screen time, and aside that, let him help Leon several times in the game. And also the two drivers at the very beginning of the game and Mike the pilot. These are the three characters who are not infected, who actually help Leon, and we don't know them much, so it'll be great to see their role expanded. Boss fights. Resident Evil 4 had quite the boss fights compared to other games. Not this one. Well, anyway, to be honest and logical, some things in Resident Evil 4 are over-exaggerated. Just like the ones that had QTEs. Well, El Gigante fights is great, with no doubt. But the double El Gigante, I'm not a big fan of it. It doesn't make sense, at least to me. Also, the lake fight has to change, cause you are not free to do the things you want. Can't you really shoot your weapons there? Anyway, the controls are a bit weird there too, in this special boss fight. Well, there are three other things. The boulder running and the statue running QTE. The Krauser fight, come on, this shouldn't have been QTE. This could have been the most iconic boss fight in Resident Evil 4. By the way, this is some sort of theory that I have. Well, in Resident Evil 2, we had the Tyrant in the final fight. Why can't we have Krauser at the final moment once more? When he fights Leon, he's not killed in that explosion because he returns in the DLC. And why kill him right there? Let him return in the final moments. This could be the most epic final boss fight in games. Well, about Sadler, well, he's okay in my opinion, and I've got nothing to say about him except that there are some rumors saying that he's gonna change overly and he's gonna look more like a scientist rather than a wizard from Hogwarts. Well, the merchant is great on his own. Maybe change his model a bit, a teeny tiny bit, but not a lot. His voice actor, Paul Mercier, did a great job of giving him the character. Maybe even have Paul Mercier act as Leon and the merchant once more, why not? Anyway, Resident Evil 4's arsenal has quite the variety. I think nothing should be changed there, like nothing. Maybe this special weapon, but anyway, the upgrading system should be there as well. Maybe add the ability to navigate the attachments like Resident Evil 2 and 3. Adding new weapons is okay, but let the old ones remain. Now let's talk about the things that could be added. I personally would love to see the Duke from Resident Evil Village here and see how Merchant and Duke know each other. Maybe add new characters as well, some who are not being controlled by Sadler, and help Leon in the village. As I just mentioned earlier, Merchant is great as he is. To make him feel more realistic, I think he's gotta speak to Leon more often. Cause let's be honest, for example, before the cabin fight, he's just standing right in front of the bridge and saying nothing. And he waits. That's actually what he does everywhere. But how did you exactly get there, dear merchant? Anyway, these were the possibilities that I could think of. Resident Evil 4 had so many cool elements that the combination of them all together made Resident Evil 4 replayable. And that is exactly what the remake should be looking for. Anyway, if you have come so far and enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in Resident Evil content, then maybe check my channel out, because I'm sure you're gonna love the content. And as always, thanks for watching.